Everybody to today's episode or session of Meet the Speakers. It's one that I'm very excited about. I just want to let those of you who haven't joined us before know a little bit about the Speakers Agency, which I started back in 2001, 10 days before 9/11. We always say that sometimes business is the best time to start or create or invent something is when times are hard, and I think we proved that back in 2001. We supply speakers, event host moderators, panel curators, conference facilitators to companies all around the world. And we also look at every job, whether it be the tiniest job or the biggest job, with the same professional service. Our clients literally range from the very large conglomerates right through to ladies' luncheon clubs. No one is better than the other. No one is treated any differently. And we're using the Meet the Speakers sessions to highlight the talents not only of our great speakers, but to show that virtual does work and that a presentation delivered virtually is as good as long as it's organised properly from both ends, and we make sure that that can happen. We can organise it from the start right through to, you know, soup to nuts, or just supply the speaker and or event host. Today, we're really excited because we've got four. I'm so used to Katie being on every one, Katie King, who will be hosting this as well as speaking. And all I'm going to say is thank you so much to Jason Bradbury, Richard Noble, Niamh McElhatton, and Katie King for coming on this. It's about transformative tech, or transformative tech, today, tomorrow, and yesterday. And because I'm such a technophobe and useless at all these things, I'm going to hand over to Katie. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. You can see my Cocker Spaniel walking there in the background. So I've got the pleasure of introducing three incredible speakers, as Sylvia said. I'll be speaking as well. And this is how it's going to work. So it usually takes about an hour and 15 minutes, but we're going to keep our four speeches nice and short and succinct, about 7 to 10 minutes each. So we will hear first from Niamh McElhatton, who I'll introduce properly in a moment, Jason, myself, and Richard. And after the four speeches, we'll get the opportunity to break into 2 breakout rooms. And in each breakout room, there'll be 2 speakers, plus Sylvia and my colleague Ashley. So we'll be in those breakout rooms. It's really easy. It'll pop up on your screen, and you'll be shown really easily how to go into those. And then after 10 minutes of you chatting, asking us questions, we might ask you what your challenges are at the moment. We'll switch, and then myself and Jason will go into the other meeting room and so on. So we'll do it. So you get in each meeting room to basically get access to all 4 of the speakers. So we'll have that 20 minutes of questions and chats. And at the end of the day, lockdown, it's nice not just to be in listening mode, but to actually get to, you know, to talk to some people. So it works really well. We are recording this, and we will be taking occasional screen grabs, if you don't mind. If you're going to be against that, you know, switch your camera off and just have your still image there. But you know, for marketing purposes, for future ones like this, we like to get a really nice screen grab of everybody. We won't be recording the breakouts, so the questions and the dialogue that you have in those sessions, you know, is private, sort of Chatham House rules, so don't worry about that. So let's kick off. So as I say, I have the pleasure initially of letting Niamh take the stage. So Niamh McElhatton is Group Marketing Director at Grafton Recruitment, and she's also the curator of the She Said Club. Her expertise spans the world of digital, education, female empowerment, leadership, and entrepreneurship. And she is listed in the Irish Times as one of Ireland's top 5 entrepreneurs, which is kudos to you, Niamh. She spent over 18 years working in the digital and creative industries, and she's a super impressive speaker and event host, as we're going to hear now. So over to you, Niamh, to kick things off.
Thank you very much, Katie. Hello, everybody. How are you? I always get quite humbled by the introduction. I don't know about other people, when they call out all your accolades, you don't always hear them in one sentence at one time. You think, who's that they're talking about? When Sylvia asked me to come on today, I started to think what would be quite relevant for us given lockdown. And I got my thinking cap on from a work perspective. And one of the things that we have worked really hard at over the last few months is about staying engaged with our customers. So for the next few moments, I'm just going to talk about the importance of customer experience in lockdown. So I'm just going to share my screen, and this is when I cross my fingers and hope technology works. Let's see. Ta-da, it worked. So I just want, this is a little food for thought. Oh, there we go. Do you remember the good old days when we used to be able to go to the shops and have a browse and not socially distant and have the crack and everything else? Well, that's completely changed. No longer have we this absolute luxury of spending time with our friends on a face-to-face basis. So I started to think, how are we going to maintain the relationships, not only with our customers? So we have two strands of customers. In recruitment, we have the employers, but we also have the candidates who become the employees. So we have two very different lines of communication. And to be able to understand where they're at, we got in touch with our customers. We talked to them and said, like, you know, what are your biggest issues at the moment? What are your problems? How can we help you? And instead of us constantly going to them with hot jobs and new leads and everything else, the tables had to turn. So we started to listen to our customers to see what their problems were and how we were going to help them. So the beauty of all of this technology and iPods, podcasting, I was looking at Jason's setup earlier and I thought he was going to actually interview us all. How do we utilize this in such an efficient way that it actually becomes productive? So I don't know about you, but businesses have integrated technology in the past without fully understanding why they're implementing technology. So for me, it always starts with culture and the people and the capability of those people. And then it becomes the strategy before it becomes the actual technological solution. So for me, today is a perfect example. Zoom, look at us all here from all parts of the world, well, the UK anyway. We're here, we're connected. We've never been connected like this before. And I just think it's such an opportunity for us to really grow and nurture our customer relationships. Just to quote a bit of Steve Jobs, because it would be rude if I didn't, you have to start with the customer experience and work our way back to the technology, or work away to the technology and not the other way. I don't know if any of you have worked for companies before and they go in and these amazing CRM systems and they have this amazing software and all of this technology. And you think, wow, this must save you an absolute fortune. It must automate a lot of processes. And they look at you completely dumbfounded and think, no, why should it? So again, it goes back to the part of understanding why we're using the technology and how we can start to use this in a tech for good way to build relationships. So for all of you digitally savvy folk, these are just a few little touch points that you can think about utilizing now to engage with your customers. And here's the thing, we have an abundance of time now that we didn't have prior lockdown. Given my own example, I was in the car 3 to 4 hours per day, just driving to meetings or to the office or to lift the kids. That's 3 to 4 hours a day. That's 15, 16, 20 hours a week that I wasn't being productive. So now I have the luxury of time to start to actually utilizing these channels to fully engage with our customers and have those conversations. And it goes back to the good old art of social media. It is there, in fact, to be social. We used to stand on our soapbox and broadcast media and tell people, this is our message, this is what we do, this is who we are, and that was it. And nobody could actually converse back to us. But with the beautiful world of social media and all these various online portals and channels, we can really take the time now to learn how to implement a strategy properly, to start to talk to our customers and improve our customer experience in a very positive way. I want to ask you this question, and I don't know about you. Whenever you go on a helpline or a call center for support, does this not become the most frustrating thing in your life when somebody says, oh, thank you for your call. I'm really sorry, I can't help you with that. I'll just pass you to my colleague. And you go round the house before you actually get an answer. And how does that make you feel? Like, I don't know about you, maybe it's the red hair, but I certainly am tempered and I certainly get frustrated, and it ruins the customer experience. I could name a few, but I won't discredit them here because this is being recorded. I was only ever once that cross that I threw the phone at the wall after a really bad customer experience. And this is what happens after I come off that call. It has a negative impact. Will I use that product anymore? No, because I understand that I'm going to get cross again given that bad experience I just had. Do you ever go on a website looking for a phone number and you can never find it? Sometimes it's good to talk, and sometimes all I want is your phone number to make a quick call to get something sorted. Or if you go on a chat bot and it doesn't work. These are really frustrating things for the end user, and as a customer, I am unlikely to use that brand, that product, or go to that person if the customer experience or customer service has been really poor. So some things that are really bad customer experience: long wait times, rude and angry employees. They need to learn to take the emotion out of it, and that they are only there to help as a connector. It's not actually their business. They shouldn't be getting rude or angry. Coming off a call or a conversation on email when you haven't got your issue resolved. Services that are not personalized, like some chatbots, really need a lot of work. Other things, employees that don't answer the question or understand what I need, and then too much automation. You know very quickly when you are connecting with someone whether they're a real person or not. So when it comes to AI, and listening to Katie later maybe, and a bit of AI and marketing, it needs to be on point, and you need to test these things and make sure they work. Because again, simple little things like that, if you've spent a fortune of money integrating a chatbot and it doesn't work effectively, that has a negative impact on customer experience. So, do you ever hear the expression 2 ears, 1 mouth? There is a reason for that, is to listen. We would do a lot of customer surveys, feedback, asking for feedback, whether we've done a tender, whether we're changing a product, whether we're trying to offer a new recruitment solution. And the first protocol that we'll go to is our customers, to see what we could do better. What do they like? What do they not like? What would help make their life easier? And this is really important, that we all take the time now to start to listen to our customers and what they actually need. So the 4 kind of steps that we have is to listen, to learn, to engage, and to converse and convert. So everything we do works on the iteration process. So we'll try something, but if it doesn't work, we listen to our customers and we say, right guys, that didn't work, we need to fix this. And then we go again. And when we come full circle, we'll ask our customers again. So everything works in the iteration process to understand exactly what our customers want and need and what their expectations are. And we not only as the product going to the customer, but as the customer will get great satisfaction from that as well. So a couple of things to think about if you are in your own business, and especially in the time where you don't have meetings and you can't have those face-to-face conversations. Look at your mobile support, test these things, test your live chat, look at your social media channels, simple little fixes like a phone number instead of an email address. As I said earlier, sometimes people just want to lift the phone and have a chat. Actually go through each of these little channels and just check how you currently sit. Do they all work? Maybe you have an info@ email address on your website. and that doesn't actually link to anybody. Maybe you have your social media icons on your website, but when you hit the Twitter logo, it takes you to Twitter and not to your actual Twitter page. So it's all simple little fixes that can make a massive difference when it comes to improving customer experience online. I want you to think about a time when you've had really good customer experience. It will be incredible. So for example, I got my girls a treehouse because I said they weren't getting a puppy, and that was the compromise. So the treehouse, no, seriously, and this is in lockdown, talk about bribery and corruption. The treehouse was fitted. The guys came in, they fitted the treehouse, they put it all together, totally professional, very discreet. There was no banging or big drills or anything. And they walked and they left me a tin of paint to paint the deck in the same colour. No extra charge. Done. That was it. I went on Facebook, 5-star review because they were fab. My girls are happy, I'm happy, and it was at a good price. So I'm happy to give those guys a 5-star review because it was simple yet effective customer service. And simple things like that, people will talk about you and people will remember good customer service. Even simple little things like saying, when you buy something in a store, saying, thanks a million, have a great day. You're like, oh, you too, thank you. Or when somebody smiles, it has such a different impact than some grumpy person sitting at a checkout, firing things at you and not having any conversation. So when good customer experience happens, we remember it and we feel good, and it has massive, massive impact on me going back to a certain store again. So what I would suggest over the next few weeks, when we still have time and we're not rushing again in traffic and back to the office, if you're trying to build your business or improve your business, what I would start to do is actually understand who your customers are. Simple little things like a customer persona. So you might have Social Susie, who's 24, just graduated in her first job, bit of disposable income. You might have Grumpy Gary, who's in his mid-50s, has a disposable income, also has a family. His needs and requirements are different than Social Susie's. So start to think about who you're trying to engage with and talk with, because your tone of voice and how you target those guys is going to be completely different. So you need to repurpose the conversation and the content to align with understanding who your customers are. Create a connection with your customers. What can you do that adds real value? It could be simple. You could just maybe haven't heard from them in 6 weeks. What about dropping them an email and say, you know, hi Sylvia, hope you're well. Just dropping you a note to check in and look forward to seeing you soon. People remember those little emails that come through, and it's those little touch points that people will say, oh, that was very clever. You're not selling anything. You're not looking anything. You're just sustaining the relationship. Customer feedback is so important, even if it's negative, because you can learn from it. And this is something that you really have to do. If you're trying to improve your star rating, testimonials, reviews, you need to take the good and the bad and evaluate that. The other thing I think is really, really important is that your team are on board. There's no point in you driving out there singing this amazing song and your team are behind you saying, what a load of crap. You know, everybody has to be on the same page. And the other thing you must do, and it's like anything when it comes to the world of online, is to analyze the feedback, is to record the data, is to use the analytics, is to look at the social media engagement, it's to look at all the stats that are out there that are telling you, do my customers like me? Am I giving them enough of the stuff that they need? I thought this was brilliant. This is just a perfect example of personalizing an issue. So the guy had said, sorry for the trouble, I found it, I just seen my order. Nike went back, and you think a massive brand like Nike are not going to help somebody really find a login detail? No problem. Happy to hear you're back in action. Give us a shout if you need anything. That's that human to human contact. And I think the problem is if we lose that sometimes when we go online, is that we think everything can be robotic, but that human conversation builds so many good relationships. And at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that, you know, people buy from people. So you have to have that conversational tone. these are just a few little touch points for you to think about how you can improve. So if you have a business brochure there and maybe it's out of date, why don't you think about getting it updated? There's loads of free channels out there now that allow you to design your own brochures. Like canva.com is a fabulous portal. You can design invitations, business cards, flyers, everything on there. So it's cost effective. Other things to do as well, well, the good old days when we had events, actual physical events. But look at your online communities. Look at how you can utilize all of these channels to start to build better conversations.
Neve, 1 minute warning there, and then
I think I'm nearly done. So I am done. This is perfect. I just thought about customer experience to end on a little Mr. Amazon. If you do build a great experience, customers tell each other about that. Word of mouth is very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ring the bell.
Good stuff. Thank you. If you could stop sharing your screen now, Neve, that'd be amazing. Thank you. Well done. I love that phrase, having the crack. I've just
it's not narcotic, by the way.
Just connected with my Irish relatives for the first time in 53 years. So I'm having the crack with them, and I'm looking forward to us having it with you in the breakouts. So well done. Thank you very much for that. Spot on. I love the mix of the technology, the digital platforms, and we can talk about AI till the cows come home, but the fact is many organizations are still getting to grips with digital technologies like Neve just referred to, and the need to mix that in with the human touch is absolutely essential. So that's spot on. So I have the pleasure now of handing over to Jason Bradbury, who's a technology brand influencer, a content creator. You'll have seen him on the TV show, the Gadget Show on ITV there. International career as a futurologist, tech trends corporate speaker, and working with some very impressive brands like Porsche, Royal Caribbean, and the Chinese organization Huawei. His delivery includes his popular 1,000-year decade speech, but also other talks about AI, blockchain, and health. And these have made him one of the UK's most sought after keynote speakers. So I'm really looking forward to hearing you now, Jason. Over to you.
Wow, Neve, I'm feeling that same pressure that you felt. I mean, my God, who is this guy? I want to meet this guy. He sounds amazing. So welcome to my tech cave. I've got to be honest with you. I know I'm supposed to do a presentation now and all that proper corporate business stuff, but I've got an audience of people on my screen, and I just want to say welcome to the Tech Cave. This is where I host, as of lockdown, a series of live streams. I'd always threatened to do this. I'd done sort of YouTube videos and all that malarkey, and regular stuff on Twitter and Instagram previously, but I've never done live streams. And I had a few people saying, you should do sort of a live stream. And so I've ended up doing a sort of 80s electro breakdance party on a Sunday night, and then a father-son Fortnite battle on a Friday night, and then something else on a Wednesday night. And it all comes from this cave, which is why it's all set up with the lights and the microphone. And yeah, maybe it's a bit over the top, but it's wonderful to welcome you in. I've got a few gadgets from my youth. Does anyone remember the Speak and Spell? I'm looking to you on the screen here. You're all on my screen here, in case you wonder why I keep looking between camera and screen. This is something a little bit more exotic. This is a project that I've got. This is the Power Glove. So this was a kind of early 90s attempt at virtual reality using the first generation of, or the second generation of computer games consoles. And I'm trying to hack this so that during my streams, I can trigger effects. So yeah, no, it's not working. You're not flashing in and out. Yeah, more work required there. And normally when I speak, what I try and do, as Katie referenced, is obviously I talk about science and technology, but I put it in an exponential context. I'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing that I do is I enter on a hoverboard, and I thought today is no exception. So bear with me. If I hurt myself, someone call 999. Fingers crossed. 1 second. I'm not sure if you can still hear me, but this is the board that I enter the auditorium on. It's called a one wheel. I'll see if I can get it going. I'm not sure if you can actually see it from where you are. There we go. Hang on. So this is an interesting piece of technology which brings together lots of the themes that I regularly talk about. There we go. There you go. Hey, it's working. Can you see? You probably can't see it, can you? Okay, tell you what I'll do. I'll jump off it and I'll show you it a little closer up. So this is the one wheel. Now, the reason that I think this is exemplary of many of the trends that are going to be so critical to what I'm now calling, Katie, based on your introduction, the lockdown decade, is because this was thought up in a garage just like this on a Sunday. It was prototyped using parts that the chap had in his garage somewhere in California by the Wednesday. And then it was fully funded on Kickstarter to the tune of almost $1 million within 2 weeks. So isn't that an extraordinary thing? This really remarkable thing that has a hub motor, lots of electronics, an accelerometer, which enables you to move over a fulcrum, which one of our speakers tonight will certainly know all about. Isn't that right, Richard? He's using some physics language for you there. It's an extraordinarily complex, original, innovative idea. But I think what's remarkable about it is how it came together, how quickly its inventor was able to envisage it, rapidly prototype it, and then bring it to market. And so that's, I think, a really good example and a good sort of jumping off point for one of the most fundamental ideas behind the lockdown decade, which is exponential growth. Let me just bring in a slide here. Okay. So what's interesting is that when I used to talk pre-lockdown, I'd talk about exponential growth, and I'd have to explain it to everyone, and no one really knew what I was talking about. The analogy I used was a roller coaster that me and my kids built in Minecraft. That there is an exponential curve, and if you were stood on the curve at this point, looking back in time, you see a sort of very relaxed trajectory. So you're looking back 10 years there. And what we expect as we turn round and look up the curve is that we're going to see a similar trajectory. But what we actually see, as demonstrated by the skeleton and the cliff face of track in front of us, is a much, much steeper curve because of the exponential nature of growth. Now, I say I used to have to explain that using the analogy of a roller coaster in Minecraft. But now, of course, the best analogy is coronavirus, because I think we've all been schooled in the nature of exponential growth. Let me just give you a sense of what I mean by that. What curves like that predict is the way that anything connected to information technology is subject to exponentialism. And what that means is that a processor doubles in power, halves in size, halves in cost, and halves in energy consumption reliably every 18 months. And so that's why when you look at something like the Speak and Spell, that's why this is so ancient and funny and ironic now compared to our mobile phone, which has an enormous number of transistors, we call them processors or bytes, compared to this device. So this would have had something like 16 bits. And of course, our mobile phones now, we measure the amount of transistors or processors in our phones by the billion. So it's an extraordinary thing, exponential growth. It's very difficult to understand because it goes against our kind of human nature. But as I said, coronavirus, I think, has put it in context. Now, before Corona happened, I was enjoying a year off with my family, and we went all over the world. We went to 23 countries. We were homeschooling them, which in itself felt like a novel thing. But based on what Neve said about, was it 5 children you have? Extraordinary. And many other parents in the chat, then I'm pretty sure that, like me now, it's quite familiar to you, but back then it was a novel thing. And I think one of the most amazing places that I visited during our year away was a place called Masdar City. I think you've been there, haven't you, Richard? You seem to note that when we were first setting up our slides earlier. Yeah, it's an extraordinary place. It's a bit of a secret, really. Not many people know about it. It's in the desert in Abu Dhabi, and it's the world's first carbon neutral city. So they've gone for full carbon neutral status now that they can desalinate their water, which only happened last year. And when you arrive, you leave your car in a car park and you go down into a kind of Iron Man-like bunker. And then these little pods, self-driving pods with no drivers, pick you up. And you sit inside this car, like something out of a science fiction film, and you'll whistle through a tunnel, and then you come up for air in a square, a little bit like my son Harrison, where he sat there in the bottom left of screen. And you'll notice something about the architecture. This is one of my big themes. One of the best ways to predict where we're going technologically in the future is to look to the past. I'm sure Richard will know what I'm talking about. It has to be the same in the world of automotive. Can you see the terracotta cladding on the building there? So that's a really thermally efficient material. What they've got to do is make an awful lot out of the sunshine, where they've got this incredible solar array to produce energy to help with their carbon neutral status. But the problem with having lots of sun is that it generates lots of heat. And so they're using, in this sense, terracotta cladding and lots of other interesting architectural innovation to try and keep the center of the city, the living experience, as cool and as comfortable as possible. One of the other medieval innovations that they're using is the wind tower, which is at the bottom center. In fact, my daughter on the right-hand side is stood below the wind tower, and all it is a big tower with some fins. The wind comes across the desert, it's directed down, and it's almost like natural air conditioning. They actually infuse it at Masdar City, which they wouldn't have done in medieval times, with water droplets. But again, it's a nice example of how we can often predict the future by looking into the past. So the next decade, 10 weeks that will define the next 10 years. That's how I'm seeing the lockdown decade. And one of the other sectors that I want to draw your attention to, I talk about lots of sectors, 10 or 12 different areas of interest, but just 2 or 3 today, is retail. So people will talk about how the lockdown, summoned the change in the high street. But we all know that the high street was in quite a lot of trouble before lockdown. And this is one of the solutions that I see becoming ever more popular. Does anyone recognize this? This is Box Park in Croydon. What I love about this space, not least from an architectural point of view, it's made out of shipping containers. We've seen that before. It's becoming de rigueur now in architecture, but it's the fact that the space is a multi-user space. So it has lots of personalities. It welcomes people in the daytime to do shopping for clothes and records and electronics and whatever. And then lots of different foods from all over the world, some really interesting food experiences, lots of pop-ups, and some sort of innovations around inviting brands into that space. But in the evening, the tables come in, and in this sense, there's a DJ playing. So that's a really innovative use of space for retail. But this is such a great idea. I was so excited about showing you this today because it couldn't be more poignant. So bearing in mind, this was something I used to talk about, the Wheelie's Moby Mart, before lockdown. And they describe this as the village store that comes to you. Now, how pertinent is that right now? Touching on customer experience, Neve, and the idea that that sort of sense of community. And also my other theme about looking to the past in order to predict the future. Does anyone else remember the grocery van coming around on a Thursday night? How about everyone else in chat remembering the library coming around? I grew up in Lincolnshire. I'm in Lincolnshire today. I'm in Lincoln. We've moved back here after our world trip. We left London, world trip. Completely changed just we wanted to get out of the city. We're back in Lincolnshire. But when I was a kid growing up in Woodall Spa, home with the 617 Dam Busters, lovely romantic little town in the middle of Lincolnshire, we needed the grocery store to come on a Thursday. It wasn't a novelty. We needed that. We needed the butchers in a van, and we needed the library at school to furnish us with educational material. Now this is, I think it's in Shenzhen, driving around now, fully functional. You can see bottom right an actual picture of it, which I added because when I first learned about this, it was only in a sort of startup phase. They're actually trialing it now. And it's a store that comes to you, a lovely community feel, self-driving, has no personnel need. We might have to give them some advice on customer service. So a little bit of a sprinkling of AI, but also some human contact. But it's a remarkable idea, and it seems incredibly more, ever so more pertinent now. And this is another concrete example of retail in the lockdown decade. This you can go and visit. It's the Samsung KX store. Give us a wave if you've been there. It's in Coal Drops Yard in King's Cross. No, you've really got to go there. It's extraordinary. So you've got all the products there. Believe it or not, you're not looking at spray cans. You're looking at Samsung, I think they're S10, Samsung phones. On the other side of those half cans, if you pick up the phone, go over to the wall, you can spray can on the wall. It's one of a number of different sort of playful experiential zones. And that's the concept. Retail is an experience. So rather than a storeroom, a warehouse with a till at the front, which is what the large scale stores on the high street are or were before the lockdown decade, this is about going in, having a great experience, talking to the kinds of people that Neve would like to employ, And then by the time you get home, something like the local village store has delivered what it was that you were playing with. Yeah. So there's a kitchen in there, fully fitted kitchen, but the island has 20 places around it rather than just 5 for the family. And what they do at the Samsung KX store is they might invite a chef in, or someone who wants to show you how to make ice cream out of roses, or a local school might come in, do their assembly and do some graffiti. They have flower arranging mornings. They have yoga sessions, all sorts of things. So there's very much a community vibe, and all that sort of wonderful paradox of selling that I know Neve will be behind happens. So you go there as a customer, you get a great hands-on experience, and you want to give something back. And what, as a customer, can you give back? It's a sale, isn't it? And so it's a really interesting model that I think, along with things like the Buck Park and the movable village store, the Wheelie Mobile Smart, I think they're going to become much more prevalent in the next 10 years. I'm racing towards another key sector that I think we're going to see huge growth in, and that's what I call the persistent screen. So it's this notion of carrying our media with us. How many of us opened up that Disney Plus subscription during lockdown? I swore I wasn't going to add another digital service to our TV. I've got 3 children, all under the age of 15. Disney Plus, I couldn't resist it because they had so much time on their hands. I needed to negotiate to get the homework done. All right, we'll get The Mandalorian. We'll do that. I'll sign up. But this is an interesting example of a working augmented reality display. This is called ReconJet, a product that I've tested, and it gives you all your vitals when you're out cycling. I'm a bit of a triathlete. If I turned the camera around, you'd see my bike hung up in the garage there. And this is what augmented reality looks like. So this is your front living room, and that's Angry Birds, obviously, augmented on the top. The digital assets add to the reality that we're more used to in the sort of virtual reality setting. And this is going to continue as we explore holographics. That's an actual hologram of me with the artist Stuart, who invented this technology called the Holotronica. And that's the Holotronica technology being used with PowerPoint to throw an extraordinary 3-dimensional graphical environment in front and all around the speaker on stage. And I think today, you may have noticed me, I was taking pictures of the screen. It wasn't vanity, although I did smile on purpose. It was to capture this extraordinary moment. My first virtual conference. I mean, it's an extraordinary thing. And this moment, I think, is possibly where I should bring it to a close, because to come full circle, change happens for generally in technological terms 2 reasons. Innovation is driven by 2 things. It's either a cultural shift or it's a significant new technology. And of course, coronavirus has brought both those. So both those boxes have been ticked. We've had significant technology waiting in the wings, things like Zoom, things like Twitch, the platform I stream on weekends, and platforms like this. This is a brand new platform that's just been announced by HTC. It's called Vive Sync, and it's a conferencing platform. And in order to take part in the conference, you need to put one of these on. So this is the Oculus Quest, and this is another very significant technology that was waiting in the wings for lockdown, and the lockdown decade for sure. Under £400, cable-free, great battery life, incredible resolution, full hand tracking. And this, along with another announcement just last week from a company called Qualcomm, I think is a really interesting omen in terms of where we're all heading. Qualcomm have announced that the technology that they put in the Oculus Quest, the game-changing virtual reality helmet, has now been upgraded. They've got a brand new chip ready to go. It's called the Qualcomm XR. And what it enables manufacturers of the next generation of helmets like this to do is to connect to 5G. So they've got much wider bandwidth. So you can process much more complex graphical environments, multi-user environments like those required for virtual reality conferencing on a big server in the cloud, and then deliver it via 5G to the headset. It's also got lots of other cool features that I won't go into now. But by way of demonstrating the technology to you, one of the things I like to do, which is why I started on the skateboard earlier, and why I showed you some of my props, is I like to sort of tune you into the reality that this is happening by demonstrating it myself, getting hands on myself with the experience. And so this is me creating my own avatar in Vive Sync. Vive Sync was launched literally 3 days ago. I downloaded it for my my own Vive helmet, which I've also got here because I'm big on virtual reality. And that was me going through the process of trying to create my virtual conference avatar. They don't do white glasses, so note to the programmers about that. And you can see the environment there. It's a kind of auditorium, outdoor kind of amphitheater, where in this case, a car manufacturer would be inviting those people who, like at the moment, like us, are locked in these square boxes, but in this scenario would be invited down to sit in the car, potentially drive it. And this technology is only going to get more immersive. I'm not unaware of the kind of Wiimote sort of funny, cartoony nature of my virtual character there, but it's only going to get more visceral, and you've only got to watch computer games and play computer games to know that. And so that's it from me. What I will say is I'd like to end on a quote that always inspires me, because my message hopefully has come across as a positive one. And it's from Arthur C. Clarke, for those of you in chat who remember Arthur C. Clarke. And the quote is this: any significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And what I will say to you, and I mean this, I'm not fibbing, I'm telling you the truth, that is actually my DeLorean. Unfortunately, the garage here in Lincoln isn't big enough. I've had to leave it down in London, but I'll sort that out. And that picture of me driving around Piccadilly Circus on a hoverboard with my friend Darren, who I own the car with, driving, is not photoshopped. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Stop sharing your screen. That would be
fantastic.
Of course. Yeah, it's all right. Absolutely spot on. Love it. Thank you. Perfectly frames my presentation, which is coming up next. And just to introduce myself, really. I'm Katie, and I'm 53, and I am constantly putting myself out of my comfort zone with new technology. And I'm having to do that to stay ahead. And after my talk, I want you all to, take something from it, which is, don't be frightened of technology. We've seen some exciting examples there from Jason. And what I want to do is just give you, not my speech. The idea really here is just to get to know us as speakers. I'm certainly not going to present to you. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of the kind of material I use and my style and so on. But what I end up doing really is educating people, trying to inspire them, trying to get them to understand that the world of artificial intelligence and machine learning is not something to be scared of. It's not about robots coming to take our jobs, but what it is, it's really augmented intelligence. So if you're like me and you're a marketing professional with 30 years experience, if you're a doctor trying to understand and get to grips with an awful pandemic like we're living through now, a lawyer, a professional footballer, there is data out there that can help you to do what you do better. And so 4 years ago, I got involved in the world of AI and machine learning, and I spent a year last year writing a book on the impact of AI. Went around the world interviewing major brands, regulators, politicians, and all of the incredible technology disruptors that have the kind of technology that Jason just talked about there, and the results of that are this book. And so what I want to do really is just to give you a flavour of the kinds of things I do. Whatever I do with my talks, it's about tailoring it. So if I'm speaking to a group of pharmaceutical people or people in storage or in a school, I'm going to tailor it to the needs of that particular audience. And there are so many fantastic examples out there. But what we're really dealing with here is technology, fourth generation technologies like Jason just referred to, augmented reality, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. And what they really are ways where when you're interacting with it, you're unsure whether it is a human or whether it is a machine. And that then is able to pass this, what we call this Turing test. And so how it's being used today that's really relevant to the world we're living in, to lockdown, to pandemics, which is affecting everyone in the world. Here we've got researchers saying that using AI, they can build a computer model that can actually reliably detect COVID in an X-ray. So, the kind of technology that's going to help us get to the point, hopefully, where we can diagnose, where we can come up with a vaccine, hopefully. It's that machine's ability to crunch millions of bits of data in a way that our little human minds are not able to do. If we think of it in another example, I'm going to show you a quick demo in a moment of Google Duplex, but it's here in the UK now. And what it's doing, it's phoning businesses, and it's an actual virtual assistant that's phoning these businesses, and it's finding out from companies what their coronavirus business hours actually are. So let's actually see it at work here. Let me show you a quick example of it. Let's go full screen.
May 3rd. How can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
So this is a voice assistant that I know, from my world that I would love to have. We talk, I've been speaking for years about how technology is reshaping the way that we do our business. Wouldn't it be lovely to have that driverless car? Wouldn't it be lovely to get to the weekend and have the assistant do the cleaning, do the booking, do the scheduling of all of the meetings? And if you're into the arts, then you might have something like this. This is Ada, named after Ada Lovelace. And she is a highly censored robotic arm that is not only producing some incredible award-winning art, but also what she's doing is drawing and painting art which has an environmental message, and she's trying to raise our consciousness worldwide about the environment. So I think, as Jason said a moment ago, we're able to use technology, and like Neve said at the beginning, humans and machines coming together to make the world a better place to live in. Not a world where all of our jobs are going to be taken away, but where we can cooperate and live side by side with the machine. And I'm personally really excited by the opportunity to have this in my home, in my life, in my community. And when I give my talks, I like to bring to the fore these kinds of examples, but also bang up to the minute. I've got incredible material from my book about AI in sales and marketing and human resources. But also, I've got bang up to the minute examples like Ada, who has been launched recently. She's winning awards. She's there at Oxford University. She's talking to royal families who are buying her art all around the world. So, it's just another example of how it's going to impact our lives. Final example here is one in the world of business. So here we are in insurance. You could go and have a car crash. At the moment, cars are obviously a lot less limited in lockdown, but let's say roads, everyone's back on the road in a month's time, potentially there's a crash. As you have your accident, you go onto your smartphone, you can submit a photograph, deal with the insurance company and get a result in minutes about your claim. And what that's doing, it's computer vision, it's machine learning, looking remotely at a digital photograph of the damaged car and being able to give a quote instantly and an estimate for the actual repairs of that particular car. There's dozens of examples of it in the legal examples and in HR of matching and so on. So, you've got to understand, if you bury your head in the sand for more than another year or two, you will get left behind. And that's a message that I share with a lot of the businesses, with a lot of the people that I go and talk to at all different conferences, keynote speeches. So just whatever age you are, embrace it, because I think you'll find something exciting, in that world that is actually going to make your life better too. So that's the end of my little talk. I'm going to now hand over to Richard Noble, who all of his adult life has had the ambition to see our amazing country, Britain, excel in engineering on the world stage. He's sought to play his part in not just spectacular efforts in that highly insecure world of record breaking on land and on water, but also in creating innovative new aircraft. He's just written a book. His latest book is called Take Risk, launched this month. And in it, he talks about the extraordinary stories of his 11 projects in record breaking, in aviation, where the companies, the people that he worked with went out of their way to join him in these really exciting endeavours and taking the kind of risks that we're all talking to you about. So over to you, Richard.
Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time and your interest. And I hope you're going to enjoy this, because this is really rather different, because we live for risk. We love risk. We actually enjoy risk. We live with risk. I live for the present and the challenges that we all face today, and of course those challenges that are coming tomorrow. As you know, the world is going to change very, very quickly. I specialize in researching and creating innovative industrial engineering projects, and we've done around 11 of them, including aircraft manufacturing, television funding, a ship. Sadly, the ship never got built, which is a real shame. We must get back to that one. And a number of world records, including the supersonic land speed record of 1997, which has never been beaten. So just have a look at this video. We got any sound?
Let's play that again for you, Richard, so we can hear you.
That'd be great. We haven't got any sound, yeah. The supersonic bang is very important.
So let's start. All 50, shoot well. Yeah, we got it. Everything is going to be wonderful. Let's see before we stop. Mile 13.5.
Taxi couples at the station standby. FCC has stopped mile 13.5.
Yeah, well, we lost a bit in the sound there, didn't we? Basically, that is a car breaking the sound barrier, going faster than any airplane you've ever flown in, except Concorde. And it's an incredible experience. We set about doing this from nothing. We're not rich people. We created this from zero cash, and it's been a huge battle. Now, the fascinating thing about that supersonic bang could be heard 40 miles away. And in the little town of Gerlach, which is 15 miles away, basically it knocked the covers off the sprinklers in the school classroom 15 miles away. So this is proper motor racing, not this sort of wimpish round and round stuff. This is the proper motor racing. So all these projects that we do are counterculture, because we have real difficulties with the strange British risk-averse culture. And they require tremendous determination, tremendous teamwork, innovation, and commitment from the actual teams carrying out the project. There's very limited funding available, and the challenge is, of course, to get the projects through on the limited funds that you can get. And these projects are all about risk, living with risk on a daily basis. And for instance, if you're developing a record breaker, then you're piling innovation risk on top of yet more and more commercial and operational risk. So you've got to live and be happy with risk all the time. A lot of people just don't like that. And if you talk to a lot of the financial people in Britain, they hate any kind of risk, but we live for it. As an example of the challenges back in 1997, let's give an idea of just what happened. We were unable to get that car, that's a ThrustSSC car, it's got 100,000 horsepower. We were unable to get it to America to run for the world record because we'd been unable to source the fuel for the cargo aircraft that we borrowed. So we got the airplane, but we got no fuel. We needed 1 million litres of jet fuel in a hurry. And of course, we went around all the traditional British oil companies and nothing, everybody failed us. And we had to move quickly. And that night, we went out to all our global web followers that night, and we offered them personalized fuel certificates for $25 a head, signed by Andy Green, the driver. There was no time to tell Andy about all this, but we just went for it. By the next morning, we had 30,000 gallons of fuel. It's absolutely incredible. And what we'd actually done is we'd invented crowdfunding. It was the first ever crowdfunding, 1997. That year, we achieved the world record, the first ever supersonic record, and the company website became the largest in the world, just for 2 or 3 days. One of the key team cultures we tried to develop, because you see, what's going to happen is that we've got to change the way we work to keep pace with the new technology that's coming. And we tried to develop that of a flat company management. The key is to make it clear that we're giving our team members responsibility and appropriate authority to go with it, and to encourage new ideas and risk-taking. So normally in a normal company, the board will tell you, give you an instruction as what they want you to do, but they'll never ever give you the authority to go ahead and do it. In our organization, we give everybody the authority. This has the most electric effect. It's absolutely amazing, because basically people get really fired up and you get the most incredible results. We're different, as our team members have the opportunity to really find out what they can achieve, because we're giving them the opportunity. And if you've got a moment, you need to study Abraham Maslow, the American industrial psychologist. He understood this and incorporated the concept into his famous hierarchy of needs way back in 1943, where the self-actuated or highly motivated people at the top of the motivation pyramid achieve astonishing personal results. We've seen this time again and again and again. It really works. But unless you organize your company in this sort of way, you're never going to get it. You're going to end up like an old hierarchical structure. But our major problems are, of course, the cultural ones. We find that the old-style hierarchical companies just don't understand the amazing opportunities, potential, and productivity that these liberating companies are offering. And it's very difficult to get the sponsorship contract signed. There's one famous one with the British car company, and we were at it for 6 years. We got it in the end, but it just shows you just how difficult these things are. Now let's move on and talk about Bloodhound. Our Bloodhound, this is the world's first 1,000-mile-an-hour car. It goes faster on the ground than any jet airplane goes in the air, at low level, that is. And of course, it's all about beating the British system and getting the team through to success. But just sometimes you're up against the real, the impossible. One of the fascinating things that we're doing with these projects is we're providing people with real life experience. So nothing on this thing's virtual, it's all absolutely real. And we end up with huge numbers on the website. We end up with Bloodhound, for instance, being followed in 200 countries. And we also have our supporters club of about 10,000 people. And it is amazing. People love this thing because basically it's different to what the virtual world is trying to do, because this is real as you get. So we designed and built the Bloodhound supersonic car. It's an enormous program, and it took 11 years or so. We fought all the battles. There's a battle every day. Everything's difficult. And in 2017, we needed the funds to finally go and run the car in South Africa, where the local people had committed 1,000 man-years of work to prepare the course on the Hakskeen Pan Desert. We'd achieved and signed off our largest ever sponsorship contract with our great friends in China, and the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer had set up a major government program to evaluate the project for the country. In other words, was this worth doing? The government decided it was worth doing. They made us an offer with very strict terms, which we met in full, every damn clause. And then they failed to pay. And with the government defaulting on us, our sponsorship contracts unraveled and we lost the entire company. Later, the Secretary of State apologized, but it was just too late to save the day. So that's the other side of risk. There's some of these battles you simply can't win, particularly with government. Today, we all move on. As we get to back to work after lockdown, we're facing a very, very different Britain, where hopefully people will realize that we have to now work in different ways. We have to be a lot more effective and also a lot more innovative. And we now have to take risk, as if we're ever going to get back to where we were before the virus had struck and started destroying our businesses and our careers. We have to take risk. And the way to take risk and understand risk is to take risk all the time. And after a bit, you'll begin to realize, yeah, we can do that. No, we can't do that one. That is really too risky. but by taking risk, you are different to everybody else. Big change is needed. We've just published an entertaining true experience book, so here it is. It's called Take Risk, to try and inspire cultural change in our country, try and change the place. Amazon have been a bit slow off the mark, but now it's going strongly. So have a look at that. There's an awful lot to achieve right now. It promises to be an amazing time as we pull together to achieve the big recovery. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and that we all meet again at some point. Thank you.
Well done, Richard. Thank you very much. We'll be meeting again in the breakout rooms. So Ashley's going to drop us into 2 breakout rooms now. And as I mentioned, you'll get the opportunity to speak to 2 speakers each time. So see you in a moment in the breakout rooms. Thanks for staying with us.